The first word I'd pick out to use in the point evidence explain would be entranced in the first sentence. George sat entranced with his own picture because he's been talking to Lenny about his dream, and it's almost as though it's captured him and hypnotised him. And so in the next sentence, when Candy spoke, they both jumped. We might pick out the word jumped as though they're surprised that Candy's there. They'd got so wrapped up in what they were talking about, they'd forgotten that someone else was even in the room. And when Candy speaks, it says George was on guard immediately, and I would probably link that with the word suspiciously a few lines later. The influence that has on me as the reader is that it shows me that George doesn't want anyone else to know about this dream. He's very protective over the dream that him and Lenny share, and he's just not sure whether he wants Candy to know about it. Candy wants to join in with the dream straight away, and that tells us something else. In the middle of the extract, when he asks, "Have you guys got any money? Maybe we could do her right now." Although that's not something that George or Lenny says, we can still comment on that as a language feature, because it shows us that when a guy sees a dream like this, he wants to join in. It's so appealing, and he wants to do it straight away. In the next sentence, we read George spat on the floor disgustedly, and I might comment on that adverb, and we know it's an adverb because it ends with ly, because in contrast to that first sentence, the word entranced and disgustedly shows us how quickly George can change his thoughts on the dream. When it comes to reality, he's disgusted, maybe ashamed about the fact that they're nowhere near achieving it. They've only got $10 between them. But in the next sentence, we read another adverb. Then he said thoughtfully, and that just shows us that it only takes one person to have a bit of money, and George is thinking, well, how can we do this? How can we make this work? In the next paragraph, which is key to the whole extract, it starts with a short sentence, which you can comment on as a language feature. They fell into a silence. Like the short sentence stops us in our tracks. We've been reading some long flowing sentences. That's what this idea does to them. It stops them in their tracks. They completely stop talking. They look at one another amazed, and that's an individual word just placed on its own there to show us how they feel. And we read a sentence that I think really influences the reader. This thing they had never really believed in was coming true, because we might have wondered, does George really believe it? Does he just say it to keep Lenny happy? And so we get that confession, this thing they had never really believed in, but then it's coupled with was coming true. Maybe they really are going to do it. George says reverently, another adverb there, suggesting that this dream is sacred now. They might do it. And the repetition of, I bet we could swing her, I bet we could swing her, he repeated softly. He's back to being entranced with this picture. He's sacred. He doesn't always want to talk too loudly in case he breaks the spell. Candy joins in with it, even though it hasn't been his dream before, saying it will be our own place. And then at the end, they all sit still, bemused by the beauty of the thing, and their mind was popped into the future when this lovely thing should come about. And beauty and lovely are words that, again, we could comment on to show us how they feel about the dream.